Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio. I'm Ben Crowe, Master Luthier, and I am here to answer your questions about guitar building. This is episode 58 of the live stream. It moved from the main Crimson Guitars channel to Crimson Guitars Extras and is also turned into a weekly audio podcast. Available on your podcast app of choice. We're here. It's currently freezing in the workshop, hence the hat and jacket. We had a power cut, and my heater decided that was a cue to just stop working. So as that ramps up, I'm just going to quietly freeze to death here. Heart of Oak, Matt Tomon, Rab Knox, Mark Ellis, Leon, Rob Tootle, Adam to remember. We're all in the building among many others. So welcome to the stream. Please feed me with questions and I will keep talking. I can promise you that. Heart of Oak comes in with the very first chat and first question says, "Evening Ben, thanks for the very helpful advice last week. No problems whatsoever. My question this week is, what grit sandpaper would you suggest to sand the guitar neck to prior to using teak oil to finish it? Cheers, Bruce." Okay, I very rarely sand higher than 240 grit, and if I do, I never, prior to finish, go higher than 320. Essentially, you don't want to polish the wood itself. You want to have something for the finish to key to, and at a point around about there, it starts becoming just a waste of energy, in my opinion. You don't want to burnish the wood, which is what happens with finer grit sandpapers. And for example, if you were using a 320 grit chunk of paper and carried on for a while, that would then turn into 400 or 500 grit relatively rapidly, actually, as you knock off the coarser grains of abrasive. So yeah, 240 to 320 will do you for almost all finishes. I say almost. There are some times with the clear lacquer that you might want to go just a little bit more, so 320. But that'll do for most oils. I like teak oil. I developed an allergy to it. There are some very, very nasty chemicals in there. So just as a word of warning, when it says do it in a well-ventilated area and don't get too much of it on your skin, they really mean that. So yeah, go for it. Woohoo! The first super chat of the evening has come in. Super chats are the best way for me to see the question that you have in the torrent, and also make me feel good about being here on a Sunday evening in a very, very cold workshop. Joe, thank you very much, Joe. Joe Smart-John Jr. is back in. Says, "Afternoon, Ben. Did you see the pictures I told you I was sending from the Hard Rock last week? I emailed them about 5 hours after last week's streams. I did. It's very, 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 very cool stuff. I have yet to actually reply because I'm an arsehole. There we go, folks. It's official. I'm so easily distracted. I will be sitting there doing one thing and then a child runs through or whatever. I'm that cold that I'm drinking hot fruit tea. Anyway, how are you doing this week, Joe? Now, Rob Phoenix is coming with £5 and says, "Evening, Ben. Oiling a maple neck. I decided I wanted a bit darker after a few coats. Any method of darkening down your high build oil?" Cheers. So part of my day today was taking a many times painted banister stair rail that was just horrific gloss white, and my wife wanted a natural wood, and I took my number 3 plane to it and basically planed down this banister, and I wanted to stain it a crimson amber stain. My wife was like, "No, just leave it natural, just put some guitar finishing oil on it," which I did, and I'm sitting here going, this is going to be too light. I don't like pine. Why would I? My wife has told me to do it, I'm going to do it. But the whole time I'm thinking, how am I going to stain this darker after I've put guitar finishing oil? And the second question of the evening, or third question of the evening, is about exactly that. Okay, so you can actually stain the guitar finishing oil itself. The spirit-based stain is the best thing to attempt that with, and please test it out a little bit with some poured into a thimble. We all have random thimbles floating around that we can use to pour stain into. A little cup or something, and make sure that it actually does mix and homogenize. Some of the stains are built using different bases, so some of the colors wouldn't necessarily work, but you should be able to darken the guitar finishing oil down to some considerable extent. Now, the problem is you will then have a stain suspended in an oil. It will still be translucent, but it does take away... It just acts a little bit differently. So run a few tests, but it should work. So you're still using oil, it's just stained oil or tinted guitar finishing oil. But as ever with finishes, run a test beforehand. And no, I don't want to take more of your money by releasing tinted oils as a standard option. Although, yes, of course, we could do that. Anyway. Jaybird Customs, how's it going, Jaybird? Says, I was wondering, Ben, how do you stay motivated to keep working? Working for yourself, do you set a schedule for yourself to work on guitars? Okay. I think, personally, I'm the other way around. I have to set a schedule for myself to stop working. I think that if it wasn't for the fact that I've got a wife and kids up there, I would be here all the time. Period. And I mean, you guys understand. It's you love this, and that's why you're here on a Sunday evening. I love it. I love making. I was standing there planing down that banister earlier, going, I love using hand planes. I love using hand planes. Even though I was planing like 2 millimeters of bloody paint off this thing. So yeah, I think that there is that. But that being said, I do feel that when it becomes a job, you do have to sit down and say, look, this part of the job is the part that I don't enjoy, i.e. for me personally, in the early years, I didn't have anybody to answer emails and to do that sort of stuff. And I find administration, or at least found administration, to be almost physically painful. And I would have to say, look, I will spend an hour every morning before I do anything else, other than drink a pint or two of coffee. He exaggerates. I will do an hour of admin. I will answer the emails. I will chase that order or this invoice or whatever. The bits that I enjoyed doing created the channel that you see today. I enjoyed the blog. I used to write a blog every single night. It feels like such an old word, doesn't it? And I would take 30 or 40 photographs every day on what I was doing, and I would then put those onto the computer and write just a sentence per photograph. And that took an hour and a half. And it ended up with several thousand people following it, and that morphed into a YouTube channel, which we're here now. And I enjoyed doing that. And but I was doing that at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night after dinner, and the kids had gone to bed. I think I've gone on enough. But yes, scheduling time is very, very important. But it varies person to person. Matt Tomon says, Dr. Ben, or BR Ben, who makes the best kit acoustic guitar? Honestly, I've got no clue. I have not ever made a guitar from an acoustic guitar kit, nor have I ever seen one. So unfortunately, I'm the wrong person to ask. It'll be us soon. No, I don't know. I wouldn't know where to start. So you're back using Trustpilot or Google reviews or something. And in fact, if any of you have bought anything from Crimson, we would love to see a Trustpilot or Google review from you. That would be most appreciated, because every little bit helps. Alrighty. Adam to remember says, thanks for all the clamps info last week, Ben. They arrived and all look very decent. Fantastic. You ended up buying a bunch of clamps from Axminster's Axminster Power Tools Black Friday sale. New clamp day is always a good day. Okay. Ooh, Inky Guitar says, Ben, question, how are the curved backs on Baroque guitars built? Okay, good question. So it's the same process as a lute to a certain extent, just with different angles. Basically, what you've got, you have a piece of wood, and you plane it into a wedge shape. And once you've got multiples of those, it just creates a dome. Now, the real issue is that it's not just a wedge shape. It's a wedge shape, and it's got that curve that goes alongside the belly. So it's geometry, and thus very scary. So yeah, the best way to do it is to just have a former. I think, I have not done this, although I have thought about it from time to time. You would have a former, and your plane is, your bit of wood is on a thing that is the same shape, a mold of what you want, an internal mold of the guitar. And you put the wood on there, and you plane alongside and use that as a guide so that you get all the correct angles, etc. But it could be, well, it's something that gives me anxiety. So yeah, I suppose I'm gonna have to build one day just to push past that, shouldn't I? Okay. Studio Lemuria says, I have a beginner's question. We like beginner's questions. How do you make a neck pocket without a template and determine the bridge position accordingly on a Les Paul or something like that? Okay, so I would not suggest that anybody make a neck pocket without a template. And whether you buy a template, we make them, various other people make them, or make a template yourself, they are not that difficult to make. It's just an annoying job, to be honest. You need to have a template. That being said, you very much could just draw it out absolutely perfectly. So make your neck, which will make your neck. Get the neck perfect, make sure it's all the right size and all that jazz. Clamp the neck down carefully to the guitar, make sure that it's lined up on the center line, put two pieces of wood on either side or long rulers or something like that to make sure that at the end of the guitar it's lined up perfectly fine. You clamp the neck down and then draw around where the neck pocket needs to be with a scalpel blade. And then drill away the excess, use a pillar drill or a hand drill, drill away as much of the material as you can, and then you can use a chisel. I suppose I'm going to have to do this in the current build, in the hand tools only. Where is that? The drill's over there. The hand tool only build. That's how I'm going to do the neck pocket. Probably. That's probably how I'm going to do the neck pocket. So there we go. But I would suggest get a router, make templates. And just the process of learning how to make a template is going to improve your guitar building in any case. Okay. Joe's super chat says, I'm doing good. But I did get a laugh in the last hand tool build video with your mistake, and I did leave a comment on it. I'm working my way through those comments. The fact that it was 2, maybe even 3 days later that I got a WhatsApp message from Talitha asking me if I was going to apologize. And I'm like, why? What do I need to apologize for? My face? I don't know. And she was like, no, you used a Triton drill in the build. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and I obviously completely forgot where the hell I was and what I was doing. And yeah, hand drill. There we go. I mean, it is a hand drill. It's the implication for a hand tool only build is a non-electronically powered tools only build. Just doesn't sound as good, does it? Okay. Uriel Sage says, here's a question. Why do most necks without Fender-style nut slots use wider nuts? What's the disadvantage of using a 3mm nut butted up to the end of a fretboard, or is it fine to do? Essentially, the 3mm nut is supported on 3 sides when it's in a Fender-style neck. Having that only supported on the one side, it is a more delicate thing. And I've seen them snap down the line of the strings even. And among other things, it just looks weird. Having a 5 or a 6mm nut, not quite 6, is just right on that style of guitar. Now, but yeah, in the end, it's about the support on the nut itself, and it would look a little bit strange if you didn't do that. However, technically, you absolutely could use a standard Fender width nut on a Les Paul star guitar. No worries whatsoever. Joe's come back in and said, as I said in my comment, technically the drill counts as a hand tool. It's just a powered hand tool. I'm going to take that distinction and I'm going to use it. I am absolutely going to use it. Marson of the Nuclear Village says, hey Ben, I want to move to Dorset in March, maybe April. Do you think there will still be a chance to start working for you, or is it going to be too late? Seriously, send us through CVs and things, and if the CV and the work and all of that is... If there's a job, then whether it's in March or now, we'll wait for the right people. Absolutely. So, yeah, basically send the CV through and start talking to Tom and Sam and Ricky in the office. My phone is not letting me open it. And we will, we'll organise something. We are looking for staff. We are looking for guitar builders. We are looking for apprentice guitar builders. We are looking for... people working in the production department are going to work on tools and guitars and kit guitars, and we're looking for teachers to work in the teaching room. I'm looking for teachers who have got no experience building guitars, but have got experience teaching people how to do woodworking in general and furniture making. Give me a shout. But Martin of the Nuclear Village, 100% send your CV through, please. And we can start talking. Now, there are questions here. Is the picture quality relatively poor today? It's probably just the lighting. Because I decided to wear a hat... Actually, the heat has kicked in. I don't have quite as many lights on as I normally would. So, there we go. Let's see if that works better. Question here. Hi guys at Crimson, love the content you make and love the guitars. I know Ben does videos on old tools. I've recently inherited some old tools. I was wondering if you could tell me more about them or be interested in some. I know 2 saws and a number 4 planer Selman master brand. Thanks for the enjoyment. Absolutely. With regards to the tools, send... The best thing, actually, if you're looking at... Oh, hold on. There is a photograph here. Yeah. I would be interested potentially in purchasing them through the tool shop, but quite frankly, if you've inherited them and are watching the channel, you should keep them and you should use them for guitar building or something else woodwork related. They are... So the Salmon brand is relatively rare, but because it's not a record or a Stanley, it's not particularly sought after monetarily, which is always sad. But yeah, if you do want to sell, give us a shout. Okay. Artie Man via Discord says, what's your tipple of choice? As I'm not working tomorrow, I've gone for ice wine in a shot glass. I mean, that sounds pretty bloody good. Currently in the cold, it is blackcurrant fruit tea, or I particularly like a good Scotch. Yeah, I particularly like a good Scotch, and it's Christmas, so Bailey's, yo. Although that has the highest sugar content of any alcohol available, I think. Camo coconut. I love the name. It says, hey Ben, would modding a Strat with 3 switches to turn on each pickup be a bad idea? Not at all. Not at all. If I haven't actually done it myself with 3 single coils, I have definitely seen it done, and it's pretty much the only way to guarantee that you can get all of the pickups going at once if you fancy that kind of sound. So yeah, go for it. Is the picture any better now that I've got the other light on? Okay, Garage Master Guitar says, evening Ben, I was going to try spraying 2K for my scrap wood build, which looks incredible, by the way. But after chatting to some of the guys on here, we think in an open garage at this time of year, it might not be a good idea. Correct. Not a good idea at all. Any advice on cold weather finishes or finishing? Thanks. Okay, so if you are in an open garage, you could have one of those infrared sort of radiant heaters that just heat up the work itself. I've heard tell that that's a good option. Have the finish itself in a nice warm environment prior to finishing, and make sure that the gun is warm. So take the gun and the finish into the house, and you could potentially be lucky one time in 4, and it would work fine. And obviously you would need to leave the workshop, the workshop or the garage heated while the finish is curing. Now that is a problem because that's a long time, and you know it is cold. It's cold. It's not that cold. It's 7 or 8 degrees in the workshop today, or was until that started going. So, okay. That being said, if you don't have the option to borrow a friend's spray booth, go and find somebody else who has a heated area to do spraying. There are commercial vehicle sprayers who would love to spray a guitar for you. It's something different, it's something cool, it's something fun, and in fact they might even rent you their space and let you use their spray booth for a short while. So look into that if you want to do a 2K in particular. And that being said, other than that, it really is just the normal stuff. Guitar finishing oil. I'm not sure what melamine lacquer reacts in a colder environment, but it does cure almost instantly in a warm environment, so that probably actually gives you more finishing time with melamine than you would normally get. And yeah, I really like that guitar. Get a warmer space. That's the option. Okay. Heart of Oak via Discord. What's a tradition that your family follows every year at Christmas? Lego. Lots of Lego. We've got Lego sets that only come out at Christmas. In fact, I found that I couldn't sit at my normal place at the table because there was a Lego Christmas train going around the little tree that's on the table. So there we go. Ours is to listen to what we think is the best skit we've heard. Stuart McLean had a show called Vinyl Cafe on CBC every weekend where he would tell a story. This one is our Christmas tradition. I think you would enjoy it. That does sound cool. I have... Yeah. I still can't believe that we're at Christmas. Spike says, Dad yesterday gifted me my great-grandfather's old two-man saw. It's going on a wall. He used to use it to cut down oak trees for barrels a long time ago. And he's changed his channel again, and he says that appears to be working. His channel name. Yeah, nobody uses those saws anymore. They go on walls, and that's pretty much it. That being said, there is a one-man version that's actually still being manufactured by Thomas Flynn, the UK saw maker. We're still making them. Okay, next question here, again via Discord. If you're not on the Crimson Guitars Discord, please go and check that out. Hey Ben, hope you're doing well. This is from Mad Atta Guitars. It's my first time building a guitar neck from scratch. So far I've managed the scarf joint okay, I think. The problem is I've got the truss rod slot I've routed, for the first time using a router, slightly too deep at the high fret end by a mil or so. There is a picture. It looks like about 1 millimeter. Does this need a fix? Also, I've read in a guitar building book that using silicone sealant on the truss rod to stop is a good idea to stop any truss rod rattling. Is this required? I've not seen it on any videos. The neck is maple. So, you don't want the truss rod to be loose in the pocket. You definitely don't. And obviously, you've routed a little bit too deep, and it is going to bounce up against the underside of the fretboard. So that's not a good thing. Now, if it in this particular case, what I would do is grab a thin strip of veneer and just inlay a strip of veneer on the top of the truss rod as far as it will go, plane it to feather it off if required, if your hole was not the same depth all the way along. And that basically means that when the truss rod is activated, activate truss rod, paw. I was imagining that I was one of the children's cartoons where you have the truss rods and everybody go, and suddenly you're a big robot. Wow. It's been a long day. Okay. The truss rod, when you adjust the truss rod, needs something hard to push against. You don't want to push against the silicone because that would absorb an amount of the truss rod's usable movement and negate that entirely. So I would put veneer on the top. I don't use silicone sealant to stop the truss rod from rattling. I use a piece of masking tape wrapped around itself so the sticky side is up, and I create a tube that is a little bit smaller than the cavity, and essentially it's just thick enough so that you can still compress the fretboard down, but the truss rod isn't going to smack up against the fretboard and make any noise. Now, this is only really a problem when the truss rod is loose. I use dual action truss rods, and in between backwards and forward motion, when the truss rod is loose in the slot, it can push. If you have a truss rod that is rattling already, take your Allen key, adjust the truss rod just until it starts to bite. You don't need to actually move the neck itself, just make the truss rod itself tight, and that 9 times out of 10 should stop the rattling. So that's not to say that silicone sealant isn't a good idea. It does do that, and it is useful. It's just not necessary. It's one of many different ways. It is necessary. It's one of many different methods you could use. Joe's come back in with another super chat. Thanks, Joe. Says, okay, I have a question this time, which is good. I haven't started my GGBO 22 build yet. What camera would you suggest? Right now, all I have is my phone. Okay. So many people. Hell, Adam Savage is using his iPhone to film all of his videos at the moment. I think he's still doing it. He certainly did through the bulk of lockdown. And it looks absolutely fine. Now, personally, I use the Canon EOS 90D as my main camera. And it's a big chunky camera, and I've got some relatively cheap lenses because, hey, dust destroys them. I've got the standard 16 to 56 mil zoom lens that comes with most of them, and you can buy these things relatively cheap secondhand to do perfectly fine. And I've got a zoom lens that goes up to 400 millimeters, I think, or maybe 200 millimeters. It's the lens that's on there. What does that even say? Yeah, 18 to 200 millimeters. And that means that I can have the camera relatively far away, i.e. out of the firing line, but still be pretty damn close up. There's more glass in between the sensor and all that because it's a zoom lens, but it doesn't really matter, in my opinion. Now, the Canon EOS M6 Mark II is my other camera that I run around with, and when you see two shots going at the same time, then I've got the M6 Mark II close up, and it's a much smaller form factor and is a really bloody nice camera. It's not cheap, it's also not a Leica, it's not expensive either, but it's a really nice thing. Now, that being said, with a good modern phone, you can do amazing things. For me, it's all about the screen. On both of these cameras, hold on. On both of these cameras, you've got a screen that flips up. So this one flips up like so, and I've got my microphones mounted onto the side. And on the one that I'm talking to you on right now, the camera flips out sideways. The lens flips out sideways. This is a damn nice camera. Now, that being said, if you are going to do this more, then a good quality lapel microphone is essential. I use Saramonic, which are not very expensive, but they seem to be, out of everything that I've tried, the best budget option. So I've got some Saramonic lapel mics, except for when I'm doing the live stream, and I've got a microphone up in the roof there, and these things just clip on, and I've got a microphone here. Sound is so important, and this is why I use and wouldn't even consider using a camera phone, is because my audio is always right here, and it's easy throughout the entire edit, and unless my bed is scrubbling on it or something like that, there's no need to worry about the audio. Whereas if you're filming with your phone and it's in various different positions, sometimes up close, sometimes far away, when you do the edit, you're going to have to be adjusting the volume constantly, and you'll never really know the quality audio that you've got. And audio quality is incredibly important for video, believe it or not. Now, here we go. Roger Coles, how's it going? Roger has sent a $5 super chat and said, hey Ben, any advice on wiring a kill switch between a double neck bass or baritone build? It's my first build and first commission. Awesome. And I want to make sure it is right. Okay, so by kill switch between a double neck bass and baritone, are you talking about the switch that literally selects either bass, baritone, or both? or bass, baritone, or neither. I'm assuming bass, baritone, or neither. I can't describe... Wiring is not my strong suit. Honestly, to make absolutely certain that I do not steer you into the wrong direction, please drop an email through to stream@crimsonguitars.com, and I will, and Stephen will ask Sam to just send you a photograph or a copy of a wiring diagram that tells you exactly what to do. Now, it's not difficult. Essentially, you will have a triple throw switch, and you've got, it's not difficult. It really isn't very difficult, but I can't describe it without an actual diagram in front of me, because I would have to find a diagram or draw a diagram or work that out. But drop us an email and we will figure it out. Inky Guitar says, Ben, what kind of plane is the rectangular one next to the micro planes? Which one? I'm going to assume you mean this, which is a little router plane. It's a Preston, but then Record bought Preston out and started doing this as their small router plane. The right next to it was a little shoulder plane, or rebate, or rabbit plane. Let's go there. I don't use either of them very much, but when I do need them, holy hell do I need them. Okay, I've got a bunch of questions here that I need to get to. Oh, no, Stephen. Too late. Stephen says, if anyone mentions Christmas tonight, they're being banned. Ha ha. Okay, Ben Timon, and in fact anybody who's waiting on an order from Crimson, we've had, as I've been telling you, some staffing issues, crowning files and leveling files and all of that sort of stuff. We've pretty much got back on top of things. It's involved a lot of work, but everything should be shipping imminently. So as in, dressing files for Ben Timon will be going out on Monday. Or should be. Okay. Yeah, the picture is obviously not quite as good as it normally is, apparently. According to the internet, the stream is healthy and everything's doing well. But, here we go. Okay. Anthony K says, Ben, episode 1.1, road trip and designing was fantastic. I love the variety, the different locations, influences, and insight into your design process. That episode was the most interesting video you've produced yet. Thank you very much for saying that. I really enjoyed that. It's the whole time I was doing it and putting it together, I was thinking, this is sort of a lifestyle vlog kind of a thing that if I didn't have to build guitars, I would love to be that kind of influencer. No, I really enjoyed it, and I am going to do a lot more of that sort of thing. I want to visit people's workshops, and I've been saying this for years. COVID really put a spanner in the works with regards to that. I want to go and visit random places. I want to go to all the museums and look at the beautiful things that are there. And, because of the channel, I will be able to say, hey, Ashmolean, can I please have a room and a curator to sit down and talk about Stradivarius, for example, or John Rowe's Viola da Gambas, or you name it. And all of these things that can be done and should be done, I just need to find the time to do them. But thank you. Let me know if more of you like that sort of thing. Would a vlog kind of a video be of interest, because it certainly interests me. Even if it's, hey, I cleared a workshop the other day where those tiny planes came from. I dropped off Nebula. I went to Oxford. I went to the Ashmolean Museum again. I went to the History of Science Museum there to look at some amazing telescopes and just and then on the way back, Safi, who runs the tool shop, had said, "Oh, there's a box of tools, and he says he's got a few more things. Can you pick it up? It's on your way back." And I was like, "Okay, fine, no worries." I was there for 3 hours. It was an entire workshop full of amazing things, including these. But having a camera set up and taking the camera through and going and talking through each tool, really interesting, and could be great videos. Anyhow, okay. There are 114 of you watching and only 49 likes. So first of all, I'm disappointed in you. Second of all, that's 113. Spoke too soon. That's more people than we normally actually get. So the new channel is coming together. Guy Hayton has come in with £4.50. Thank you very much, Guy. And says, "Hi, Ben. I love the videos. Admiring the Pentel Pencil you are using on the hand tool build. What leads are you using for drawing on wood?" I've had one of these in my pocket now for about 2.5 years, and I've only actually broken one. And I don't know how I managed that. I use the 0.9mm pencil. They come in 0.9, 0.7 and 0.5, I think. Probably even 0.3, not that I've seen those. And the reason why... It's a fantastic pencil, but the reason why I've got it is because the clip here, when you clip it, it retracts the whole lead assembly for one, which means that when it's in your pocket, it's much less likely to stab you. But for two, it's a really heavy duty clip, and I've got it in my jeans pocket every single day, and every other pencil I have ever tried, that has broken. And a few months ago, I found on sale, luckily, this beautiful, it's Italian made, it's a Visconti Mirage pen. And this is cool. It's got little magnets in there to pull it together. But this pen has got, again, an incredibly heavy duty, it goes all the way around the inside, sprung steel clip, and it's the only pen that I've found that also sits across the seam in my jeans pocket without me having to worry about it breaking. That wasn't what you asked, but I'm a fan of cool tools, and my pen and pencil are cool tools. The pen was a little pricey, but yeah. Oh, I've just had an email from Workshop Heaven called "Made by Hand: The Meaning of Life." Okay, so hold on, come on, sorry, I'm losing track. Oof. Okay, SC Guitars has just sent me a bunch of pictures from the Ulster Museum, and he's taking photos of some beautiful tools. Used to be owned by a man called Edward Crowe, which is excellent. Creever says, "I've already broken one Graph Gear 1000. I'm just bad at pen flipping and smashed it on the ground several times, and once on my phone, but I got a screen protector." Okay, that's just irresponsible pencil ownership, and you need to be punished. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, questions. Give me questions, people. Feed me with questions and super chats and keep this thing running. Uriel Sage, Pentel Graph Gear 1000. Love him. Serdar Carvin, how's it going? Says, "Hey Ben, I have a light coloured walnut fretboard. Which oil can I oil it with, or should I? I don't want to darken it." Whew. If you don't want to darken it, the only thing, pretty much anything that you do will darken it. However, if I recall correctly, pure mineral oil darkens wood a lot less. I keep on looking up to that side because I think I might have some up there. Maybe. So mineral oil, it's both food safe and non-darkening, which is, yeah, what you're after. I think it's non-darkening. Run a test. Marsha Levine, you spotted the tools. Marsha sent $10, thank you very much, and says, I can't wait for the video on the microplanes that you're promising, Ben. I will definitely need some of those soon, so need the info. Yes, need. I have a project already in the works. Honest, sounds to me like you kind of like me. You get the tools and then you create a project around the tool. So this is, it's a fantastic little collection of hand planes that one maker, I think, or one creative made every single one of them for a particular purpose that he came across. And in fact, one of them is part made. So yeah, I am going to do a video restoring them. It won't be out next week. I have a repair to do and other stuff. It is more than a little bit full on, but they will be coming soon. So yeah, there we go. Wow, there's only 102 people watching. What did I say? Okay. Yeah, so Marsha, at some point I'm actually going to go through the process of making planes like that as well, because I want to, and I want to learn, and he will make some interesting videos for sure. Seth Grogan says, any ideas other than attaching a plate to the bottom of the bridge to raise it up? I mean, plate, veneer. You could. It could be quite a cool look to have washers underneath each corner. It depends on what type of bridge you've got, but washers so that you've actually got a floating bridge, so that it's floating. You know, magic floating beds. You've seen this sort of stuff. You could even have LEDs under the bridge. Splooging out. Now, if you've got solid washers and they're bolted through that, you won't lose any tone transfer, I don't think. But it could look quite cool. So there we go. I've never had a thought of that. Ben Timon says, I sold a mint Lee Nielsen number 85. I had to pay rent a couple of years ago. I'm sorry for your loss. I too have many times had to sell tools, in particular planes, that I did not want to, just because I needed the money. In fact, there's a local tool dealer to me who is the reason why I really started the tool shop, because I knew that I could get tools from him at trade prices, essentially. And he doesn't remember that he gave me horrible prices for a bunch of tools early on, number 7s and bits and pieces, and I was like, really, you only want to give me 20 quid, 30 quid, or whatever it was. It was horrific, but I've made a lot of profit off tools that he sold me after the fact later on. But yeah, it's the way it goes. Okay, it's warming up in here a little bit. Ian Bonjour says, I love the look and feel of your oil, but would like a higher sheen. Would applying shellac first help? I assume they're compatible. Thanks. Yes, it would help, and yes, they are compatible. In fact, you could mix blonde shellac flakes into guitar finishing oil. It doesn't dissolve quite as rapidly as using methylated spirits or the traditional options. But yeah, no, it will work. And yes, if you apply the shellac first, and then the oil afterwards, that will give you a higher sheen. But the real trick is to apply the guitar finishing oil instead of applying it with a tissue. Flood it onto the guitar and then rub it in with fine wet and dry paper, so 1500 grit or 2000 grit wet and dry paper, and that will fill the grain, and it will also buff up the oil as you're applying it and buff up the top as you're applying it. Then use your fine tissue to wipe away the excess until it is touch dry, and then set it aside to dry until your next coat. And by doing that 3 or 4 or 5 times, you can get a very passable shiny finish. Not high gloss, but glossy. For sure. Okay, Lewis Wingrove says, Ben, when does the custom request on your kits become a financial issue versus a custom build? Or how many requests before I'm better off just purchasing a build unit from Crimson Guitars? So we generally, a custom build is going to be a lot more expensive than a custom kit. And essentially the reason for that is most of the time we've either already got an idea that we're going to produce something. Most of the ideas that you guys have, and you in particular, are things that we could put into production anyway. So we kind of eat the cost of drawing the drawings and make it, and then it's something that we can do for other people to a certain extent. You know, something like a Telecaster with Strat pickup layout. It's relatively easy. Now, doing that entirely by hand as a full custom build and doing all of the finishing ourselves and putting strings and pickups and all that jazz, it becomes more expensive. And in reality, most of you guys are here because you want to learn how to build guitars, not because you want to buy my guitars, which makes me sad. I would love if all 109 of you bought a Crimson guitar, or were even tempted to buy a Crimson guitar. But in reality, my business is teaching and kits and tools and things. So the kits are more financially viable, or at least they're not cheap kits, but they are cheaper than us doing a full custom build for you, because of the way that we do them. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's up to you. Okay, Grooving Drum says, hi Ben, and what's on the bench? We saw the pastel aquamarine in action. You know if this was thinned down to have this light colour or if this was the normal look? I'm fairly sure that was the normal look, but I'm only fairly sure because I wasn't in the room when they did it. Joel Bass says, I've been wondering this as I love to cook. Are your kitchen knives as sharp as your chisels? No. I have been banned from sharpening them because my wife is worried about one of the smaller children cutting, or probably actually just staging a coup with them, to be honest. That being said, I have actually recently been given permission to sharpen them. So yes, they will get there to a certain extent soon. That's a good question. We don't often get random questions. We don't often get questions that aren't seen coming. Wow, my brain is fried today. Whew. Kate King says, hey Ben, I'm making my first guitar. Congratulations. I'm using a Strat wired kit. How much room do I need to add so the back plate doesn't touch the springs on the back? If you're using a kit, it should already be there. Or have you got a Strat wiring kit? That's what you said. Okay, the two things are not related. Essentially, you want 3 or 4 millimeters from the back of the tremolo, the block, the trem block. There we go. Just so that you've got a little bit of room. Say 3 to 4 millimeters, really. So if your trem block is 40 mil, 42mm, 43mm body is about right. Now, that being said, when in doubt, Google it, because I'm saying about or thereabouts or 3 or 4. If you are using a tremolo that is made for a Stratocaster, just Google what a standard Fender Stratocaster body thickness is, and I'm fairly sure it's 42mm, and that'll do it for you. There is nothing new under the sun these days. Anthony Cunliffe says, do you have any particular approach when designing a new headstock for an established body shape, Les Paul, Strat, etc., or is it just mess around until you find something you like? I mean, that final sentence describes my entire life. Mess around until you find something you like and then stick with it. As a rule, when I'm designing, I tend to start with something that already exists, be it one of my headstocks that I've come up with previously, or we'll start with the PRS style headstock and say, okay, well, if I do this and this, it's good. The problems with headstocks is it's the string pull, it's where the tuners go in relation to everything else. So I use that from a Strat and then redraw around and come up with something that I like. Okay, it's actually warmed up in the workshop now, finally. So the jacket is no longer required, which is good. There's nowhere to put the damn thing. Nick Guitar says, next video, only hand tools, Wenge build. I hereby excommunicate you. Excommunicado! I need to go watch John Wick again. Creever Ice says, dull knives are way more dangerous than sharp ones. I agree. I have said this many, many, many times, and there we go. Matt Tomon says, Kit Acoustic Guitar Kit, when will you bring one out? So I'm doing the travel guitar soon, and based on that, it's going to be 2 or 3 years before we get to full, proper acoustic guitar kits. It is something that I have planned, but it's not imminent, I'm afraid. So, yeah, sorry. All right, everybody, give me questions. Sean Forsyth says, hey, Ben, it's been a few months since I last tuned in. Welcome back. You were sorely missed. Do you have an opinion on using graphite as a saddle material? I was not a fan of the Graphtec graphite nuts. I felt that I wasn't a fan of them in the early days. Felt a bit warm and a bit thuddy. But that being said, if you've got a good quality, well-made graphite, I use it as nuts now, and there is no reason why it can't be used as a saddle. It can be good. Personally, I do think that while it looks cool, it isn't as good as metal for holding a thread, for example, and you need, in an electric guitar at least, that adjustment. So brass or steel, something like that, is better. But as long as it is a very, very well made graphite composite with a nice tap tone, etc., then it should be quite good, actually. It should be fine. Marko Rakjevic says, hey Ben, have you ever made a guitar with a rising up neck? Maybe for your next project. So you're talking about a guitar where there's an Allen key in the back, or something in the back, and the whole neck goes up and down on a post of aluminium, kind of like Ken Parker's jazz. That is, Ken Parker does that, yes. And various other people, predominantly jazz guitars. I have not yet, but it sounds fun. Arthur Cassenguy says, what is the collective noun for guitars? A stadium? I honestly don't know. He's also up for an acoustic guitar kit at some point. Ian Bonjour says, would you finish a Wenge fretboard or leave it natural? I would add oil, which darkens it down, because essentially, especially Wenge actually, if it's left to dry and go too dry, then it could conceivably crack and cause issues. Okay. Ben Timer says, where do you start the taper on a through neck guitar? If it's at the end of the fretboard, won't it cause problems? No. So it doesn't. It's to do with what it looks like. I don't do it at the end of the fretboard normally. I'll do it at the 16th fret, which is where the joint is. But if necessary, I will actually have the top flat, and the angle will be built in, and then essentially will carve things away. So it's about that gap underneath the fretboard between the 16th fret and the last fret. And it's hard to make a sweeping statement about it. If you've got a flat top, if you've got a carved top, it all makes differences. So I don't know. Disco Stew is in with a super chat. Thanks very much, Disco Stew. Says, hey Ben, I've been sitting quietly enjoying the show. Would you rather never use a hand plane or a powered saw ever again? Moving swiftly onwards. Okay, so if there's one thing that this build, the hand tool only build, has taught me, it's that at the moment, I really suck with big saws. The only time I've ever really used saws like this has been doing DIY or garden stuff. And that's using modern hardpoint saws for the most part. I think I know with a little bit of practice, I could replace the bandsaw entirely with bow saws and big saws and all of that jazz. If I had to choose, I would choose hand planes, emphatically. But my gosh, it would be difficult. Mean question. Sudar Carvin says, could a normal hardtail bridge be used as a multi-scale bridge if you cut it up into multiple pieces? Yes. Actually, that could be quite fun. Why hasn't anybody done that? That really could actually work. No, on a normal hardtail bridge, there just isn't enough adjustment. There just isn't. So, no. Anthony Conflict says, going back to the headstock, if something was a straight 6, would you avoid changing it to a 3x3? And no, not at all. Not in the slightest. Or would it just be possible with more work? I want to do something interesting to the Jazzmaster. Go for it. I mean, the Jazzmaster is a fun instrument to experiment with for sure. And yeah, I am 100% of the opinion that you should mold the guitar to your needs. And if you want a 3x3 headstock on an instrument that traditionally has a 6 aside, or a 4 and 2, 4 and 2 is a perfect example. Look at Music Man. You know, their silhouette is a Strat-ish kind of a thing. Arguably, actually, it's much nicer than a Strat. I really want one. I really, really want one. I got into guitar building because I couldn't afford to buy the guitars I wanted. I'm now a guitar builder and I can't justify buying the guitars I want because I could build the damn thing. Ah! Okay. Feel my pain, people. Get on your feet music says, hi Ben, how could one determine if a particular string gauge is not suitable for an acoustic guitar's tuner mechanism? I don't think that there is a difference between an acoustic guitar's tuning mechanism and an electric guitar's tuning mechanism for the most part, unless you're talking about very niche, classical guitars, for example. Most instruments should be able to take pretty much any string that would normally be on that guitar. I'm going to assume you're talking about a multi-scale or an 8-string sort, something like that, and you're talking about larger or thicker gauges. In that instance, I would say, first of all, go to the string manufacturer's website and find out what tension that string will be when it is at the pitch that you require. And then you go to the manufacturer of the tuner and say, hey, yo, does this tuner... will this tuner cope with X pounds of pressure per square inch? That's not even the right way to say it, is it? Will it deal with a string at this tension? Please. I am not the person to answer that. Guy Hayton is coming with 450. Thanks very much, Guy. And says the collective noun for a guitar is an embarrassment. A quote from Mick on that pedal show. That's where I heard it. As another guitar creeps into my collection. No more needs to be said about that. I love my life. I absolutely love my life, and I love what we're doing. Now, hold on. I saw question marks. Kevin Harvey says, hi Ben, if I bought one of your guitar plans, could I get it as a digital version to use in Fusion 360 or a through neck custom build? We don't sell digital... We don't sell digital versions essentially because, well, that way you could just turn around and then start selling plans, and we've done all of the hard work, which is a pretty hard-nosed commercial kind of a way to think about it. But it's a decision that we had to make. That being said, these days it's relatively easy to take a photograph of a full-scale plan that we just post to you and then import it into... I think Rhino does it very well. I think that's what I've been said. Greg Freeman says, what is your opinion on FU tone titanium blocks and titanium saddles for Floyd Rose bridges to increase sustain, etc.? I use Tusk nuts and string trees on most of my guitars and they're great. So Tusk is not what Graphtec used to use, I think. I need to talk to Graphtec and actually... I need to talk to Graphtec. There we go. I also need to talk to FU tone because they actually... are on the super chat every now and then, and I would love to get my hands on some of their some of their product and see for myself what it sounds like. That being said, due to physics, I do believe that what they say is true. Titanium does have a particular tonal characteristic. It is physically going to do that. So, yeah. Leon says, hi Ben, speaking about the travel kit, what is an indication for the price? Now you get into the hard things. If it is not too expensive, I could pick it up as a belated Christmas present. Do you know what? I cannot say at the moment because we really have to figure out properly It's all about man hours, really, in the end. Luckily, it's not going to actually utilize huge amounts of wood, but somebody sneezed outside. Ha! That's weird because it's dark and there shouldn't be anybody out there. On, for example, an electric kit guitar, it's a body, which is 2 pieces of wood glued together, maybe a top, a neck, and a fretboard, 4 pieces of wood. On this, it's 1 piece of wood cut into 10 or 15 different pieces. So the man hours is what we need to work out, and I can't just guess how long it's going to take us to do that. So we're going to make it as inexpensive as we can, but we really need to work it out properly so that we don't end up either screwing you over or screwing ourselves over. That being said, it is something that we are working on right now. Sam had the photographs of the plans that I drew and is putting that into the system, and he's working out what we need to do, whether it's going to be laser cut or CNC'd or what. I'm looking at buying a sander thicknesser and a new planer thicknesser and all this stuff to make this happen. And I hope that we will have pre-orders for this going live around about Christmas time itself, actually. So we'll say, hey, yo, launch. It's going to take a few months for us to produce them all, but here you go. You can pre-order and this will be the price. But if I say a price now, I'm going to get into trouble. Okay. Guitar Addicts Workshop says, I'm looking to outfit my shop with a jointer. What do you think of the tabletop versions, or should I save up a little bit more money and get a floor model? If you have the space, get a floor model. I don't have much space, and I've got the Triton lunchbox style thicknesser, and really for a home workshop it works perfectly fine. But if you're going to be putting more through it than the odd guitar, I really would suggest getting the biggest, the most expensive helicoidal cutter blocks, etc., that you possibly can, because you get what you pay for. You know, the Triton machine is incredible for the price. It really is, but it can't compete with a £4,000 or £5,000 floor standing machine. It just can't. It's not designed to, for that matter. So yeah. Anthony Cuncliffe says, I've got a business idea for you, a Crimson Guitar Kit advent calendar. Out comes the camera. I like that. Out comes the camera. Sweet tea's late, but we love him. That's all good. How's it going? If it's a question of building guitars or watching the live stream, build guitars. Magic Music Adam says, the collective for guitars, synths, or any instrument for that matter is an N-1, where N is the ideal number to own and N-1 is the number you currently own. I have heard that said before, and I agree wholeheartedly. It also applies very much for tools. Very much for tools. And studio gear, yeah. And watches. And tools. I know I said tools twice. That's so that I get to buy twice as many tools as anything else. Okay. Rob Kennett says, I've been looking around for a guitar electronics book that's in print and available at a reasonable price. Crimson Guitars? Question mark. I have got about 50 or 60 wiring diagrams drawn up, ready to go. I just need to actually print the damn thing and do some words. So literally, I've been working on this. We as a company have been working on exactly this for about 6 months. So yeah, if you want it, please drop us an email through shop@crimsonguitars.com. Say, I want the electronics or guitar wiring book now, please. And we will let you know as soon as it is done. Robert asks, did you see the recommendation about using the number printed on the plank you were using as the model number for the kit you were going to offer on the build you're doing? I didn't see that. That's a good shout. That's a good shout. Sam Maskery says, hi, Ben. Well, I didn't realise you were still live streaming. This was my favourite part of the lockdowns and I thought it had gone. I'm back. Hey, Sam. Yeah, no. It's moved over to the Crimson Guitars Extras channel because the main channel... we were losing multitudes of subscribers every time, i.e. 20 or 40, every time we put a live stream out because it isn't the content that they subscribe to see. So we moved it over to this channel. I thought that we'd promoted that, but obviously haven't. I need to get notices in... I've got a warning coming up here. Hold on. Okay. I need to get more notices on our social media and the videos and things so that more people come across. But it's good. It's all good. Now, come on, everybody. Give me a question. Divergent Guitars came in with a question as I was saying it. Divergent Guitars sent a super chat. Thank you very much. And says, hi, Ben. Regarding the Triton TPT125 planar thicknesser, any recommendations or tips to avoid snipe on the leading edge of the wood as it goes into the planer? Trial and error, my friend, trial and error. Once they are set up, they really can be very, very precise. But it's just a case of taking some cheap dimensional store-bought pine or something like that and putting it through and adjusting and putting it through and adjusting until you've got everything just right. Other than that, there are no tips. I lie. I have not tried it. I haven't needed to because my one's actually set up quite well and it didn't take long. I've seen people put a piece of that sort of shiny, slippery, hard fiberboard stuff, kind of melamine actually, that goes across the whole thing on the inside of the thicknesser, and that then acts as a nice, thick, flat. Something just fell off the wall and scared the crap out of me. You pause at that point if you want to see a funny expression on my face. Yes, so essentially you've got a big half-inch thick piece of chipboard with kitchen worktop surface, something like that. You use the tables underneath to get that adjusted, but it's homogeneous and big and also slippery, and it works really well. I had to do something like that many, many years ago on my Sedgwick planar thicknesser. That was a long time ago. Okay. Taylor Parker, how's it going? Thank you very much for the super chat. Says, hey Ben, is it possible to sand back a matte finish to add some relic look and use a different color finish in the distressed areas? Yes. Yes, absolutely. So it depends on how you're going to distress it. Just sanding it, putting paint into scratches left by sandpaper. It's a little bit hit or miss. It depends on the paint that you've got or the stain or whatever you're trying to use. But if you've got larger dings and cracks and scrapes and you use a scalpel blade to make the marks and things like that, then yeah, it really is a case of you can easily rub in acrylic paint or powdered stains, that sort of stuff. It's something. Honestly, go and watch Adam Savage when he is taking something that he's made and trying to make it look old. So he made a box for a microscope, for example. I think it was a microscope. And he made it look like in a NASA box and all that. And then he was going through and aging the whole thing. And whenever he does something like that, I'm sitting here taking notes. You know, rub and buff. Where can I get some of that stuff? So, yeah, watch him. He's the master. Barry Christian says use another piece of wood similar size just in front of the main piece. Any snipe will be on the scrap. That is so simple, and of course is the way to go. 100%. Crikey. How big would a Crimson Guitar Kit advent calendar be? So you were actually saying I should make a guitar kit and route holes into it and put chocolates in it. I was thinking an advent calendar with printed pictures of guitars, and you opened the printed picture and found the chocolate. Wow. Okay. Jake Richards said, "Is there something trying to attack you from outside?" Lol. So I need to put shades on here because the sun in the winter at least is so low that it just floods out this whole room. And I had this up against the window blocking the sunshine out the other day, and it finally fell over and scared the crap out of me. Marson has sent a question via Discord. I'm not entirely sure if I'll have... Oh, here we go. Okay. Ben, any idea what kind of timber can this be? Walnut, maybe? All I know is it used to be a handrail and now it's transforming into fretboards and similar stuff. It's pretty easy to work with, but oily and quite hard. That kind of looks like teak. But it kind of looks like teak to me. Or maybe Iroko, but yeah, I'd say teak. Please do not, ask other people. I'm not the best. It's not a wood that I use very often. Okay, we're running down. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes, and yeah. David Spears says, Ben, it's almost 2022. Any GGBO updates? It is not almost 2022. I refuse to believe you. Okay. Rob Kennett says, thickness of sniper. There will be an announcement soon. It's one of the many, many things that's distracting me from the hand tool only build. Thickness of snipe avoidance from Rob Kennett says, I use a piece of kitchen cupboard end board that is longer than the piece I'm planing to avoid snipe. Works on really thin pieces and the drum sander too. Very, very cool. Robert R also did see a YouTube video on how to minimize a snipe when using a planer. I just don't remember who did the video. This is the thing. Taylor Parker says he loves Adam Savage. We seem to follow all the same people. I think a lot of the makers, well, there's a reason why they're at the top. It's because they're just amazing. Now, Discos 2. Rosewood for a neck. How difficult is it to work with? Not that difficult at all. Rosewood is a particularly nice wood. I love it, actually. Yeah, not that difficult at all. Go for it. It sounds great. It's got a beautiful tap tone. It sustains really well. It is a premium wood to make guitars out of. As Ben Timon says, it is quite heavy though. Okay, now, everybody, unless there are any more questions, I'm going to start winding down. Let's have a check just on here and see what's coming through. No, nothing on there. So yeah, life is quite fun. I can't believe we're actually in December already. I'm going to be working on figuring out exactly what's going to happen to GGBO and how that is going to come through. We've spoken about it quite a lot on previous live streams. I am still working on my daughter's holy guitar. It's currently under primer and will be painted soon. And then I'm thinking of gold leafing inside the cavities. Rob Tootle says there's a challenge for Ben. Build 24 kit guitars in December. I could do it. If I had a camera person, I could do it. But I think we would all lose our minds in the process. Adam to Remember says, just to get your 2 cents in there, Ben. Question, are one-piece body blanks a problem? Is there any benefit to cutting in half and re-gluing it as a 2-piece you normally see on most guitars? So if you have a one-piece body blank, there is no reason to cut it up unless you don't have a wide enough planer thicknesser. Now, I particularly like the look of a one-piece body, but for some reason I don't really like the look of a one-piece flamed maple top, for example. And again, I think it's just because I'm a traditionalist, or at least I've turned into a traditionalist. Can you believe it? So yeah. No. That being said, there is no issue either with cutting into 2 pieces and then adding a glue joint, so that you do have something, because most lunchbox, well, all thicknesses, tabletop thicknesses, are too narrow for almost all guitars, which is sad. Guitar Addicts Workshop says, any recommendations on thickness sanders for hobbyists? The only recommendation is either to make one yourself, which is possible, or there is one that is manufactured by a company out in China and then rebranded for pretty much everybody, I think. Jet is probably the brand that you will have access to, I think. They're relatively expensive, £1,500-ish, but really good. The next level up is about £9,000 and really, really good, but also 3-phase and industrial. So crazy. Marston of the Nuclear Village says, Adam Savage is 2 leagues above God and Lemmy. Now there's a debate to be had. And Leprechaun says, Ben, have you ever tried using lapidary stones as inlays? I have not, but I have bought some with that plan and then never got around to it. So I don't see an issue with it. The only it's just a question of processing and wearing a mask while processing. So you would have to cut the stone in half, a grinder, etc. should do the job, or you would use sanders. Sanders is the diamond stones and things, and tool sharpening machines should also work on that, or just buy a proper lapidary set. I've always thought that it would be very, very cool to cut facets on, like they do with diamonds and things. Now, I thought I saw that joke. Rob Kennard, Crimson Guitars Advent Calendar Kit, where Advent has 34 doors and counting. That being said, I'd promised that my daughter's guitar would be done in 3 episodes, and I'm thinking actually 4 is probably required. Okay. Divergent Guitars says, the Mythbusters episode I'm in is Series 10, Episode 6, Blow Your Own Sail. It was the best 2 days of overtime I've ever worked. I believe it. Leprechaun says, I would love to see you work with BC Picture Stone. I've never heard of that. British Columbia, I assume. Let's Google that. Pretty. Now that's what those shitty little sort of ocean scenes in resin is supposed to look like. Okay. Bulgarian Evolution has just joined us. Okay. Purple Draco says, how about working with Triton to come up with a desktop planar thickness of a guitar builders that they could corner the market? That would be incredible. It's not a particularly big market for anybody. The issue is that while the Triton team themselves would, I'm sure, say, hell yes, the cost... Most machines like this are manufactured abroad by companies that do machines to a certain design, or at the very least start with a form factor and say, okay, you can customize this, you can have a better motor, you can have better bearings, you can have etc. You can have your own custom molds for the plastic, etc., and of course the different colors and things. And that's how you iterate on something that they've already done the bulk of the R&D for. To do R&D on a completely brand new machine, which Triton do, is incredibly expensive. And some of their best machines are fully their own, but it has to be a mass market thing. That being said, I think that in this day and age, where there are more people making big resin tables and things like that, a wider desktop thickness should actually find quite a big market, so I will suggest it to them. Ben Timon says you need to do a hand tool only whiskey cabinet build. Yeah. Divergent Guitar says Adam and Jamie are just as cool in person as they seem on the show. I believe that. Okay. All right, people. Look, I'm going to call it a night at this stage. We've been going for a while. I will be back same time next week. Let me leave you with a question. I'm seriously considering, when I move to Crimson, having random live streams going while I'm building and setting up a couple of cameras. Maybe even just wow. The cameras that you buy to just put on your computer to talk to people. Webcams, there we go. I am tired. And then I'll just click go live. And on this channel, you'll have loads of stuff, just random guitar builds as they happen. Would that be fun? Let me know. Okay. Okay, here's a real question. Anthony Cuncliffe says, which of all the guitars you've built is your favourite overall? So not just the looks, but the playability and the sound too. On all three fronts, it's the 12-hour guitar. Beautiful lightweight mahogany. I really like the look. Plays incredibly, except for the right just at the neck joint. I need to carve a little bit away. But I love that guitar. I really do. Robert R says there is also some BC ocean picture stone that has some pretty blues in it. The difficulty would be working in such small pieces. It could be fun. Jake Richards says, Ben, you should stop predicting how many episodes your builds are going to be. Yeah. It's always a... Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Okay. Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. Creever, I would love to have these kinds of live streams. Okay. Well, look, I'm gonna set something up and we'll go from there. It'll just be a random click. We're going live and go from there. I can see that the battery is actually also going on the camera, so this is a good point to say good evening. Thank you very, very much for your support, everybody. As ever, I've had a blast, and I will be back next week. Good night. Have a good week.